You're listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Munson. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.
Hi, it's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and this recording is part of a series to do with moving home. I was requested by one of my patrons, Mr. Tom Evans, to that he would like to see some practical astrology, where I tell the story and kind of show how astrology bears out what's going on. And so I asked my patrons, what things would you like me to explore? And one of the things that came up was moving home. And funnily enough, I've just moved home. So I thought I'm going to demonstrate how you can look for moves, like house moves, in a few different ways, and with a few different charts, so that you can see that one set of criteria doesn't mean that you're going to be moving house, but it can show a shift in the way that you are at home and the way that you're living. So the first thing that I would say about house moves is, like, this is my chart. Now it's looking a little bit uncrowded because normally I have extra asteroids in it, but this is the chart that I have from my birth date, from the time, place and date of birth. And I've got my Sun here, my Mercury, my Venus. This is the North Node I'm pointing to now. That represents our karmic path in life. This is my Neptune and my Mars. We've got Uranus, Pluto, Saturn. Here's Chiron, and here's my Moon and Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. Now you see we've got these angles. This is known as the ascendant, and this is the descendant. So the ascendant is about everything that I am and the first impression I give to people. Here's my descendant, that shows sort of everything that's not me. So my interactions with other people, my relationships. This is the part of my home, the IC. And this shows the unique point of my home, my childhood, my early experiences and my early behaviours that came from that childhood and that home. And then this is the midheaven, which shows my aspirations and, I guess, things that have happened in life that have come from not being at home. It's the opposite of the home. It's everything out there. Now, when an astrologer is looking at changes to the home, first thing they would look at is if there are any current planets. And I say current planets because obviously these planets here in this birth chart, they represent where the planets were at the time of my birth. However, the planets keep on moving. So I'm just going to click here on Astrodienst. I should put out a shout out to Astrodienst and say thank you for this amazing tool that I'm able to use. But I'm going to click here where it says with transits. And you'll notice that we get some extra things. And this shows where the planets are right now in relationship to my chart. Okay. So the first thing an astrologer would do, probably to see changes in the house, is to see if there is a planet going over the point of the IC or a planet going through here. Now, the most significant changes to somebody's home would be when one of the slower moving planets goes over this point, the IC. Now, the slow moving planets are Uranus, that's here. We've got Neptune, that's here. And Pluto. They're the real slow movers. So when one of these passes, and they're all going in this direction, anti-clockwise. So when one of these goes over the IC, that represents a huge change. Now, Neptune is currently in my fourth house, which shows that I'm having a Neptunian home time, and I have been for quite some time. Neptune passed over this point about 7.5, 8 years ago, and I guess it really did herald a huge change in my life, because I met Carl, my now husband, 7.5 years ago. But immediately before that, I went travelling to Bali, which was kind of in the run up to this whole thing. So these planets also go backwards and forwards. You know, they seem to have retrograde movements once a year. So over the 9 months between me travelling to Bali and then coming back home and then meeting Carl, it passed over the ascendant, the IC, passed back, and then passed over it again as I met Carl. So that symbolised a huge house move, because I moved in with him straight away, and then we started a family straight away, and we're still in this phase of having a very Neptunian home. Now, Neptune is about higher love. It can be about transcendence. It can also be about all the muck that comes up in childhood. The negative side of Neptune is very much about deviancy and things that are deeply emotionally and unspiritual. At the highest expression, it's all aspects of the highest type of unconditional love and spirituality and illusion and transcendence. And I think it's safe to say that I've experienced all of that since I've been with Carl, because I guess in the safety of a great relationship, you're able to drain the swamp of your collective unconscious mind. So it's been quite useful. And having children as well, and getting married, all of that creates lots of new drama and emotions for you to work through and transcend from. And also extended families coming into your home. So it's been a very interesting time. Funnily enough, Neptune also represents charity and support from the universe. And in the time that we've been together, we've been given homes to live in related to charity. But we've been almost like caretakers over homes. But anyway, that slow planet just describes the ongoing home change that I've been through. So there's nothing actually transiting through here at the moment that is particularly strong. So that would be the first thing an astrologer would look at, is something going through here. The second thing the astrologer would look at would be the ruler of the IC. Now, the IC in my chart is in the sign of Aquarius. Now, the sign of Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus. Now, my Uranus is in the 12th house to do with secrets and to do with the great unconscious mind, and it's in the 1st degree of Scorpio. Now, Scorpio energy is quite sudden. As an astrologer, I might say that my moves are quite sudden, usually come as quite a surprise to people, because also Uranus is the planet of surprise and awakening and sudden change. And my moves are very emotional. So when I move home, it's always because I'm pulled somewhere. When I was 18, I moved to France. Suddenly I had a dream and then knew I needed to go and live in France. And the next day I told my parents I was going, packed my bags and cleared off to France. It was kind of similar with Bali. I felt that calling. And so my moves aren't very rational. They don't make much sense, but they go on my unconscious, my imagination, and they're often sudden and create quite a whirlwind when they occur. So the first, the second thing an astrologer would look about house changes would be the quality of the planet that rules the cusp of the home, and then where that planet is. Now, this planet, Uranus, has just changed signs. Now, it's changed signs for everybody because this is the current transiting planet. But the astrologer would say, is it going over something important? And is it in alignment with anything? So the current position of Uranus is just over 2 degrees Taurus. Now, what you might notice is it's in complete opposition to my natal Uranus. And this happens, this is one of the midlife transits. So having Uranus in opposition to your natal Uranus is a very, very strong symbol of a movement of maturity. So we would say, she's going through a massive transit here. She's going through a massive growing up phase. But because this is the planet that was on my IC, it's a particularly interesting one. So an astrologer would probably say a move is quite likely. Also, Uranus is currently trine my Sun and my Mercury. The Sun is quite an important planet. It shows, your ego and stuff. So having it in a trine position to my Sun, and also a trine to my midheaven, shows that I'm going through some huge changes to do with my ego and understanding my ego, and also my midheaven. So there's another indication that I might be about to shift. But you might notice I've also brought in this asteroid house, which is usually quite useful. And I like to bring in these little asteroids because they really tell a story. Now I've brought in the asteroid house, and sure enough, Uranus is going backwards and forwards over the house, my house in my natal chart, which shows that there's definitely some instability, because Uranus represents instability. So there's something big going on with how I view a house, and am I moving? So it really is a likelihood that I'm likely to be moving, probably several times. And here, we're transiting houses. Now, house moves quite frequently and quite quickly. Now, currently, house is right over my Mars. But house has been going through this bit for quite some time. So when you add house in, house is right over my Mars at the moment. And so Mars is the planet of action. And it's actually not over my Mars. It's over my Neptune and my North Node, which are 10 degrees, but the actual mark is here. So house went over my Mars and is now right over my Neptune and my North Node, which is karma and direction and spiritual direction, I guess. So what actually happened was 2 weeks ago, Carl and I, we knew we were going to be moving in about a month's time or 2 months' time. We knew we had to make a move. And we put out the energy that we might just move. And then I saw an advert for a house sit and a cat sit for 18 months, right in the middle of nowhere in the centre of Portugal. And we applied for it. We didn't expect to get it because we're a family and not everyone wants a family moving into their family home. But basically, we have just moved house. Suddenly, we needed to be able to move within a week. And so we just upped sticks and moved to a house we hadn't actually visited. We knew the area because we'd stayed here, funnily enough, when we first arrived in Portugal 9 months ago, in a similar area just around the corner. And so we agreed to move into a house very, very suddenly. And so what I would say as an astrologer is, with the house going over Mars, it shows a quick movement. And it's now over my North Node and my Neptune. And I thought I'd have a look. There are 2 towns nearby to where we're living, and one's called Fatima and one's called Tomar, and we live in between the two. I couldn't find the nearest asteroid to Tomar. That sounds like Tomar, but I found the asteroid that would represent the energy of Fatima, or Fatmi. So I brought this asteroid up because the asteroids really do the finer detail. And sure enough, at the moment, funnily enough, Fatima and House are in the same location of the astrological world, and both. So Fatima is over my Mars, and House is over my Neptune and my North Node, and Pluto is over Fatima, and has been for the last year. And like I said, 9 months ago, Carl and I actually moved to the town next door to Fatima and visited Fatima. So it looks like, there are changes. There are other ways of seeing it as well, but I'm going to cut this video. I'm going to stop this one here, and I will corroborate that in Carl's chart, because that's the incredible thing. In a partnership, obviously if one person's moving, then the other is too. So this should also show up in Carl's chart. So let's see if it does.
You've been listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Munson, and this recording has been made possible by all you lovely supporters at Patreon. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.